Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this debate that we will be having here. I'm greeting also those who are following us online. This is a panel also co-organized by the Eastern Frontier Initiative, which is a consortium of four media. It's Hungarian 444, Polish Gazeta Wyborcza, Slovak SME, and the Romanian Press One. Today, I would like to focus a little bit on techniques used by autocrats and governments with wannabe autocrats to silence, manipulate media. And I will start with one thought. When a couple of years ago, I attended a mission of press freedom organizations to Budapest. After 3 days of talking to our colleagues in Hungary, the conclusion was that the Orbán Viktor propaganda machine, even though is using advanced technologies, the effect of that propaganda is very similar to that of the communist regime. And this is all is happening in a frame or a simulation of a democratic country. At our yesterday's panel, we spoke a lot about the possibility of replicating this model and what dangers it might bring to societies. But we concluded with other colleagues that it is actually not possible to copy and paste the Orbán model for different reasons. We know that in Slovakia, for example, Robert Fico does not have the people, he does not have, hopefully, the time to do it, and the media environment in Slovakia is different from that of Hungary, but still there are techniques that might be shared, and they keep advancing. And let's remember, at the time when Orbán started capturing media, he didn't have Facebook. So basically, with the tool of social media and disinformation, some of the wannabe autocrats have really almost unlimited possibilities. We will discuss this topic with my esteemed colleagues, Bartosz Wielinski from Gazeta Wyborcza, Poland, Lili Takacs from Hungary, from 444, and Matúš Kostolný, editor-in-chief of Denník N from Slovakia. I'm Beata Balogová, the editor-in-chief of SME Daily. In the first round, I would like to ask my colleagues to actually describe a couple very concrete attacks or manipulation techniques they have been facing over the past couple months or a year, just to illustrate what we are talking about, so that we don't stick at theoretical description of these techniques. Maybe Lili, if you would like to start, just pick a couple, because I know that you could speak all day about all the different attacks.
Yeah, I will try to be quick. So if we are talking about the last couple of months, I think that international events influenced heavily on what Orbán is willing to do in the media realm and what he's not willing to do. I'm talking about Donald Trump's re-election, which Orbán had bet on previously, and he actually communicated that we won. We used the term we, and after that, he really feels emboldened, and I think that the government became a bit stronger, and they have new plans for independent media, for which the room is quite small, and it has been like that for more than a decade now. And they are planning new legislation which probably will affect independent media as well. They are targeting foreign funding, let it be American, and they are also talking about EU funding as well. We still don't know the details because no new legislation draft has been submitted, but the deadline set by the Prime Minister was Eastern, so we will probably know more in 2 weeks. But this is the one that they are getting more emboldened. The other is that they, a couple of months ago, or almost a year ago, they created a new institution, which is called the Sovereignty Protection Authority, which attacks independent media as well. The Eastern Frontier Initiative was attacked by them as well for getting EU funding. They basically labeled us being Brussels-funded pro-war propagandists, and like half of our TEFI articles is getting labeled as pro-Ukraine, pro-war propaganda pieces. They also made a document, a report about us, how we are influencing Hungarian society with Brussels money, which doesn't really make sense, but it makes sense in their propaganda world. And then I just told you that like a week ago, the propagandists paid by the government started a new technique. They, from time to time, they did that in the past as well. They call independent journalists and they record the conversation and they make videos and post about them. But I think they stopped for a bit, but then they started it again. And basically they are harassing independent journalists who are covering political events. This didn't happen to 444, but to another telex journalist. A propagandist went up to him when he was covering a political event with camera, of course, and with a microphone. He started to question him without hesitating, like, are you sad that you're not financed anymore by Joe Biden? How do you feel? Why are you sad? What will you do? How is the mood in the editorial room? And then, you know, they edit the videos how they want. And we think that this will happen more and more now because each political force is touring the country. So there are like 3 political gatherings every day, which like the newsrooms would like to cover as many of them as possible. So I think that we will see a lot of them in the future.
When you say propagandist, so that we explain to the audience, do you mean someone who works for Orbán's media, or they are just random people like who?
Well, I think the Hungarian propaganda machine is quite complex. In this case, I was not talking to someone who works for a media outlet. I was talking about a political influencer who is closely related to the government. No, he's focusing more on Facebook and short. I don't think he's doing longer explanatory videos. He's operating with Reels a lot.
Yeah, I think it is happening also, and it's obviously a trend that will pick up in Slovakia, so that these influencers will be hired by the political force. But maybe one additional question. So what do you do in your newsroom? Are you discussing these? Do you have like a strategy or how you cope with it?
Yeah, we discussed it either in our editorial meetings on what we should do and what we should not do. I'm not sure if there is a good strategy at all, because whatever you do, they will just edit or cut those parts out of the video. But basically, we think that the best strategy is not to engage with them, because it really doesn't make sense. No one is going to convince the other. They will just cut out those parts that they wouldn't fit their narrative. But, you know, starting to talk with them and to respond to their questions. For one, you cannot do your job because you are there covering an event that you cannot pay attention to because you are talking to another person. So this is not good. Then they will just make a smear campaign about you, and you cannot say anything good to them, which they wouldn't use against you. So yeah, basically we decided that the best strategy is not to engage with them. But it's not my personal experience because I'm not doing videos, but it is really hard because they are standing like 5 centimeters from your face with a camera and with a microphone, and they are talking to you nonstop. So it's really hard not to pay attention to them.
There is one difference, one quite big difference between Slovakia and Hungary, among others, that Viktor Orbán is not attacking personally journalists any longer. He doesn't need to, but Robert Fico still does. And maybe Matúš can explain us or bring up a couple examples, recent examples of attacks, and maybe also explain why Robert Fico is still so passionate whenever journalists address him.
I think he really hates journalists. I mean, that's the point. I mean, and he gets emotional in it, so he's not able to not to talk about journalists. So he's calling us pigs, rats, whatever. I mean, and and I really think this is the difference compared to Hungary, and I even think even to Kaczynski's Poland that they were not attacking directly concrete journalists. That's the case in Slovakia, that the Fico himself or his people are attacking concrete, especially women journalists, and they talk about real names and talk about their families, about their properties, about their flats, houses, or whatever, incomes. They call Social Security to attack their children. They use officials to harm those journalists. They do those contact operations. I mean, they pretend to be journalists. That's what they say, that you are asking us questions, so we are now asking you questions. And it's not done by influencers. It's done by people who are the advisors to prime minister or members of parliament or even ministers who go into the street and they keep asking questions to journalists. So it's a thing which kind of I mean, I would say it's funny or like crazy, but it's dangerous because then like average people in the streets, some of them, they might get the feeling that that's normal to do. And that's what is happening also to us again, that you're just walking down the street and somebody's going to attack you. I mean, we're lucky for the moment now. I don't know about physical attacks, but people are verbally attacking journalists and asking questions because they saw it on Prime Minister's Facebook, so they think it's completely okay. We are also discussing it in our newsroom, what to do, what is the reaction. And I would say that there is no good reaction. I completely agree with you. I mean, the only thing I say to my journalists and to myself is that we always have to be the smarter, more intelligent and more funny than those people who are attacking you, even though it will be cut it off from the piece. But you have to be trying to be better than they are. Definitely not being aggressive. So the problem is not to raise your voice and not to scream and yell because it doesn't look very good on video, even if they are attacking you and you're only defending yourself. It is still a problem. But I'm not sure if the strategy of not talking to them is always the best one, because it really depends on the situation. It really depends who is asking you the question, where is he asking you the question, what are the circumstances, and what is the environment, what is the reason why it is happening. So, because sometimes it looks weak if you're leaving the situation with no response. I don't want my journalists to be not able to answer easy questions or stupid questions. I mean, there is no reason to really discuss it. I mean, there is no reason to discuss with somebody who is like only trying to provoke a fight or something. But you have to still keep in mind that if it's possible to answer like in short sentence, argument which is solid and based on facts, then do it and then leave it, because that might help. I mean, you will never know if it helps, but it might help.
Bart, I was wondering that with the change of the government, did politically motivated attacks changed against Gazeta, or they remained just some of the narratives changed? What's the situation with your journalists?
It's better, of course. There's no government which is harassing journalists. But for instance, the case with slaps, because there are few approaches the government took against us in these 8 years, and they were convinced that if they cut the funding of Gazeta, cut out the subscriptions, no advertisements, that will die suddenly, because we are so dependent from public spending that we can survive any cuts, and they really did it. And we were still breathing. We found other way of getting income. We had a paywall, we had the subscribers, we have a community built around us, so there was a nuisance, but we could go further with that. So then they started to slap us, so to sue us for each story. Against them, there was at least a letter sent to the editorial board with some threats or all the lawsuits. And for the 8 years, they have sued us for 130 times, I believe. So Kaczynski himself personally, his party, the Minister of Justice, he was on the top of the list. The Minister of Education, Minister of Culture. We got 150 cases within 8 years. And each case must be answered. So you have a deadline, 2 weeks, to write the code back, present the list of evidence, present your statement, present the list of witness, and to start the procedures. And you need to go to the court. You need to call a journalist of the work and send him to court to testify. This is not a pleasant stuff, because the lawyers of the other side are also clever, and they could also harass you. So there was a huge nuisance. And on the average day in 2021, our attorney was sending us the pictures, how much brief envelopes he got. And on average day you get 6 or 7. And suddenly around the government arose a system of law chancelleries, of attorneys working for the government, who specialize only with cases against the media. Because they were not only slapping us, but also slapping other editorial offices. And few smart guys, unmoral, unethical, but they get very, very rich through that. And everything was paid, of course, by the government, or just, for instance, in case of CEO of the public television, we have no proof of that, but the same man who represents him in his private case against us took over all company dealings with a huge entity like a Polish public television. So there is some suspicion that there was some kind of of link between that. And now the government changed, but the cases were still in court. And we started to ask the Minister of Justice, maybe you should take it out. We won 98% of the cases, but still you need to process them, you need to go to court and have all these procedures. So we asked the government to stop it, and they did it very reluctantly. And the companies, the state-run companies, did that totally unpublicly, because they believe that if the government would change again, and this is something you can't exclude, they could have problems, because they should follow, and defend the interest and stuff like that. So, slowly the number is dropping, and we have to negotiate with them. But the main problem is that I believe that the society and the policymakers and politicians and business people, they were simply, contaminated with an idea that you could treat the press as an enemy. You could be ruthless, you could be brutal, you could go to court, you could, threaten to journalists, you could use whatever you want to fight with the media, because the media is not your partner. Media does not play any special role in the society, because the media is your enemy, and you need to strike back. And this kind of contamination it won't go that easily. It will stay, you know, and the idea that you could have an authoritarian rule, that you don't have to pay attention to check and balances, that you could ignore the court verdicts. Well, this is very comfortable way of governing the country. And this is my, you know, greatest fear, that will stay with this society for many, many years.
Mm-hmm. I have to say that they were not that clever, because they did it also in Slovakia. They established a law firm. It's a law firm of our defense minister, and it employs a lawyer who is being criminally prosecuted for corruption. So maybe, again, it shows that these ideas circulate, and what you excellently described as an approach towards media and the process of discrediting media, it's shared in all our countries. We already mentioned disinformation in the introduction, and I think for Lili and her colleagues, it's probably the toughest call, because how you clear and how you explain disinformation when your government is the biggest disseminator of disinformation. But with that, we also are experiencing completely being overflooded with fake news, misinformation, and the government starts setting the tone and the agenda. And it's not only the case in our countries, but also in the United States, or whenever where populist governments rule, that the media is losing the gatekeeper role, because they are becoming reactive. They feel that we have to react to those outrageous things that these politicians said. Matúš, how do you decide when you will react to something that Robert Fico or the disinformation channels are saying?
It's two different stories. If Robert Fico is saying it, then more or less we have to react, because he's acting prime minister, and even though he's talking nonsense, it's still prime minister's nonsense, and we have to report about it. If it's disinformation media, then we're very cautious about it, and if there is no rational behind it, I mean, we're trying not to be writing about every stupid thing which is published by those actors, because it's not journalist actors. So there is no mathematical rule for it or something. I mean, it's like really case-to-case situation, and you have to think about it. I mean, we have some kind of experience-based models. It looks like we would have something written, but it's only we are talking about it, thinking about it. The most important thing for me is that we will not be only responding to things or sentences said by politicians or disinformation, whatever. We have to keep in mind that we have to be trying to do our own investigation, to do our own stories, not to be only responding to it, because that would be the end of journalism. I don't have tips or hints how to solve the situation, because it's changing on a daily basis, and something is working last week and was working last week, and next week it will be completely different. But if there is a discussion starting about this new topic, they start to talk about it, and if there is a public interest of telling our readers that what is wrong and what is not wrong, and how does it work and how to understand it, then we're trying to do it. It's not possible to do it with everything, but we are trying to understand what is what is of interest for our readers and to help them better understand the situation. But I don't have a solution for it.
I think the difference between us and Hungary, again, is that in Slovakia, we still can, like, our reporting or investigative reporting still have consequence, while in Hungary, very often, even though the media is fulfilling its role, they are bringing stories of corruption, but there is not much effect. How do you keep then bringing these stories and opening these stories if you feel that you are being ignored by those who should be taken responsible for those actions, Lili?
Well, because this is our job to keep going and to inform our readers and the public about what is going on. I mean, last year we had some quite big effect with 444 when the president stepped down after we published the case of her pardoning of some director who helped in a pedophile case getting away. So we do know that, you know, journalism has consequences, but not in every case. It depends on a whole lot of circumstances. I think it also depends on the mood and the society, on the topic itself. Because, for example, a couple of months after this pardoning case, we also broke another story, which itself, I think it was more serious. It was about the Russian hackings into the Hungarian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and that our minister knew about it when he accepted the friendship order by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. And I think that in itself, this story is much more serious, but it didn't have the same consequences. I think it depended also on how society reacts, because this was like a hacking case, which you see in films, like some dark people sitting in dark rooms in front of the computer and doing computery things that no one understands. While in the pardoning case, we were talking about the pedophile case and about hurting children, and which I think everyone felt closer emotionally to that case. So I think this is one aspect that can influence what effect we do have. But you know, I think this is proof that we can have our effect. But still, it is our job. We cannot not publish someone because we fear that it won't have consequences. For example, we have this new scandal about the Hungarian National Bank, that its president and basically the president's son and his friends, they made several hundreds of billions of public money disappeared, and the independent media have been writing about their shenanigans for 10 years. And now that there was a change in the presidency, the president of the National Bank was changed. Now the Hungarian institutions started to do that investigation that the independent media had been doing for 10 years. So maybe you write something and it will have an effect years later.
A couple of years ago, when I spoke to your colleagues, I think the source of frustration was also the fact that if one of the media wrote something, like revealed something, not all the independent media brought the story. Because in Slovakia, it's I can say, Matuš can correct me, that if Denníken brings a story and it's big, we actually cover it, we link it back, and we try to work on it further. Because it's a good story, but so it's basically, or when SME breaks a story, or Actuality or Markiza, so there is that kind of, you know, that competition aside, like we wanted to amplify and to make it a public case. Has that changed in Hungary since that?
This is my personal opinion, so this is not an editorial opinion, but I don't think that there is this frustration now. because there are so few independent media outlets left that we have to, and also because I think the story is important. It doesn't matter who broke it. If someone else like found the story and it is a good story, then we should let our readers know as well of what happened. So I think it changed.
But has your ability to set the agenda changed after the change of a government? And sorry, I'm always asking you for this comparison, but since you are the one who get rid of the bad guys, so we would like to know like how the situation changed.
There is presidential election in June, and you know this is Poland. Everything could go wrong. So don't be so happy in advance. But hopefully, the polls are good now. Well, so let's stick like this. No, we didn't change the agenda because the first thing is, 8 years of we used to call our government, the previous PS government, as an organized crime, or there were even more than 1 or 2 gangs dealing together and fighting with each other, and the billions of zlotys were defrauded. Within this government, were misused, were spent sometimes without any purpose, just to satisfy somebody's will. And for instance, they dig out a channel linking a lake and the sea in the northern Poland, just to make Poland more sovereign from Russia, because it's close to this Königsberg Oblast. It has no military sense, no economic sense, but it was a prestigious, initiative of Mr. Kaczynski, and he decided to spend 2 billion zloty in just digging, sand to get a connection between lake and the sea. They constructed a huge coal power plant in Ostrołęka that costed 72 billion. How much was that? 7 billions? Was a lot of money, let's say that. And then they had to demolish it because, no coal power plants could be built in nowadays Europe. So they bought, fighter planes from South Korea, but forgot to order the armament for that. So we have fighter planes without rockets or bombs. And so I could go farther and farther, but now those cases are subject to investigation, and the new government started to look what the predecessor left, and they go through the files and sometimes we reveal what was really gone, and the prosecution office that could have been somehow cleared and made independent, they start an investigation. So we need to follow that. So we are still PIS concentrated, and we look at them. And the final thing is that they didn't change the party, the political party of Kaczynski. They didn't change the approach toward journalists. They're still hostile. They're still spreading fake news, attacking journalists directly, and still secretly they are selling their secrets to the journalists on internal strife, internal discussions. So they are also leaking many interesting information, because this war, this internal war, that's what we could observe probably in few weeks within the White House administration.
What do you mean by selling information that
selling, I know, not selling for the money, of course, but this guy is a bad one, right, about him, and they just reporting what's really on within the party. So that was extremely interesting. That officially they hated us, and they were looking for contact. They were looking to use us, use journalists in general, for their internal purposes. And some journalists really caught the bait, and suddenly started to report along the lines of the party fractions. So one fraction wanted to remove other fractions, so they were just making some kind of propaganda anti them and using independent media outlets to write bad about them. And you had to be very, very careful that having one source in the PIS party didn't mean that you really had an insight what was going on. You needed 2 sources or more. There was a great school of journalism dealing with that problems, and this philosophy still function. And the last thing is that the first institution they took over in 2016 was the public television, the public television was liberated, let's call it that, in 2023 on December 20, it was a symbolical day, and then they moved the people, the staff from the public television moved to the private television, which tries to emulate the PIS propaganda. And yesterday there was a verdict of the court saying that they can't broadcast in the air, using this land-based broadcasting system. Well, there's a huge strife now in Poland, and probably they will go to Trump to complain against the government. So J.D. Vance will be happy to have another country on the list.
Thank you. Whenever press freedom organizations come to Slovakia or any other country, they ask different questions, and one prominent question is your access to information, and they ask how much it affects your ability to do good journalism. And here in Slovakia, we know that the Robert Fico government is not really talking to us. So Matúš, I will ask you, like, how much the fact that some ministries are not responding to our questions affect your job?
It affects us on a daily basis. I mean, we are asking questions and we don't get answers, so it's a complication. But I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, we always are trying to get information, even if it's not officially, even if it's not on a press conference. We have our channels to do it. As you already mentioned it, I mean, that's the same with our government. They hate us, they attack us on a daily basis, but they some kind of love us because they even though they have their own media, these information channels, they have their own social media, and they explain to everybody that they don't need traditional media anymore. But still, they are so angry if we write something about them. They are so nervous when we are asking questions, and they are not able to be part of the story. They love to be there. I mean, that's something which brings those people to talk to us, even though if not officially, even though if not in front of cameras, they still do it. I mean, yes, they're not answering our questions, but then yesterday there was a press conference, or 2 days ago there was a press conference by Prime Minister Fico and his friends, advisors, and accused criminals. And they answered questions from my colleague because they thought this is the press conference where they will show how strong they are, and so they started to answer those questions, and then they understood that okay, so this is that was a mistake. We didn't have to answer those questions because we don't know how to answer it. So yes, they're not answering to our questions, but I don't care about them. I mean, we have to do our job, and it doesn't matter if they answer or not. I mean, there is a new trend. I mean, it's that was the case that Mr. Fico, Prime Minister Fico, didn't answer. When he was a Prime Minister, he didn't answer to our questions. It's already 12 years or something like this. There are some new things. This time when he became Prime Minister, he was thinking about to make it officially that the government will not respond to our questions. Then he understood, or somebody told him, that it's against Constitution and that might be a problem. So then he changed it. He allows us to go into the government buildings and to ask questions. They're not answering those questions. But in past years, when we officially send a question according to the informational law, more or less all the ministries would answer because that was according to the law. Today they are not doing it. I mean, there are ministries like Environment, Mr. Taraba, he's not answering questions even though we are asking it according to the law, so it means they have 30 days to answer, and it's a legal procedure already. He's not answering all the time. I mean, could you go to court? Yeah, we could go to court. What we do, then we ask our colleagues from different media, and they send the question, and they will answer to them the same question, and they will not answer to our newspaper, but they will answer it to to some other journalists sometimes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's not. Some of the ministries answer, some not. So it's not a catastrophe. I mean, those politicians, they believe that this is their weapon that they have in the hand, that we will not answer your questions. Come on. It's not everything what we need.
Yeah, but you also do an important thing, and I know Deník does it also, other media, that you tell the reader that you did ask the questions. So they see that you are still making an effort. Because in some countries, this wall of silence results in anonymous sources, and it results in the fact that the media actually is not even saying that they are addressing someone. It also might result in the fact that sources became afraid to talk, and they don't want to attach their name to the stories, which I believe, and Lili can then tell us, it's a problem in Hungary, that you cannot get people to talk to you. And so I think that we are still, as you say, we are still at the luckier end of that story, but we have to make effort that we show the reader that we are still working with sources that are legitimate.
I only wanted to say that sometimes it's enough when you ask the question. You don't need to get the answer. So that was the case like a week ago. The Prime Minister entered the Slovak National Gallery, and one of my colleagues, she was like screaming, or what would be the term? I mean, she was on a different floor, screaming the questions to the Prime Minister, and he didn't answer. But those questions were more important than his answers.
Lili, I already posed the question that how are you dealing with that wall of silence from the government, and how you deal with the situation that there is a certain fear among sources to talk to you?
Well, yeah, we know very well how is it when they are not responding to us. We always make this step, so we always ask the questions officially. I think in like 95% of the cases I don't get any answer at all. And the other 5% I get an answer that doesn't make literally any sense. They could just send me random words. So they answer, but the answer itself, the content is not usable. And when you request information, you submit a FOIA, well, there are two cases. In some cases they respond and they give information. That is very rare. In other cases we go to court and we wait months and months and months, and maybe they will give us something scanned, unsearchable document that we can use. And there is a third tactic. I don't know if you have experienced this in Slovakia or in Poland, that there were some cases when we submitted some official request because we make this step, and we always do that, and they killed the story. They published in their own media like a preemptive strike. So you really have to think about when you request information and when do you submit your FOIA. And regarding the sources of information, yes, we do feel that the fear has been growing, and I think we will have elections in 1 year, so in the next 12 months I don't think this is going to change for the better. Yeah, sources are more afraid to talk, so basically everyone in the independent media is using anonymous sources because no one is allowed to talk to us with their names on. But we still have to try to find them and try to talk to them, because I think that every story is going to be better if we try to show every aspect of it. So this is why it is important to have sources, but yeah, we need more work, because they are definitely more afraid to talk to us.
What is the situation with Gazeta? Because our experience is that whenever Robert Fico is in opposition, he's more willing to answer questions. Is that the case?
Well, Jarosław Kaczynski now, because when he was he was never prime minister, he was deputy prime minister, but he was, the capo di tutti capi, so a grandfather. And he had more bodyguards than the prime minister or the president, and they were from the private company, and they were allowed to carry weapons in parliament. So when he entered the parliament, he was surrounded by his private bodyguards, and he couldn't get close because they would push you out. And now it's forbidden, so he can't have this protection. So now he's protected by the lawmakers of his party, who try to push out the journalists. But the journalists, of course, are like a journalist. They are, well, they're doing their job. They simply push against, and he has to answer questions. And of course, when he is forced to answer the questions of the television, he doesn't like TVN. So he's really furious, and he's insulting the journalists, which is of course great, because that doesn't look good. Well, that changed when we were talking about those influencers harassing you. That the journalists did almost the same thing to Kaczynski. Well, trying to ask him a quite difficult question, and he reacting also well in a very aggressive way. So you can get a comment. But if you have a question regarding the party's policy or something like that. Well, for instance, the migration. During the PIS government, they were very vocal, like Orban, against migration. They wanted to close the country. But secretly, they were allowing people from Southeast Asia or Central Asia to come to Poland for work. Because, well, we have a demographic crisis, well, we need the workforce, the economy was growing, and the Poles were not interested in harvesting crops.
That was a great story.
Yeah.
I read it actually.
Yeah. So well, we found the numbers at the end. At the end of the government, there was something that crippled them before the elections, and that was one of the main reasons that they lost the elections. But there are numbers, and you confront them with the numbers, and the answer you get is just a lie. No, it didn't happen. No, it was just 600 cases. No, there were 366,000 of people. They came to Poland without being screened. Just you allowed that number of people to enter the country. No, this isn't true. You are spreading a fake news. Blah blah blah. Well, so that's the way to talk with them. Sometimes Kaczynski, confronted with the obvious fact, he says he doesn't know nothing about it. And it also looks quite funny, because the entire country is talking about this, but this particular man who used to be in charge of the government for 8 years has no idea. But that's what we hear from them, is that when they got back to power, they will be really ruthless, and they will just crush every opponent. When they say that there should be a death penalty for Donald Tusk, or for his, well, workers, for his ministers, then, well, this is about to be serious. So those guys, they don't joke. So this is, the atmosphere in Poland. We are before the elections. The polls are bad for the Peace Party, and they're still hoping that maybe with the help of Donald Trump, or I don't know who, they will be back, and then they will unleash, the hell and put us all to the prisons. So that's the declaration they are making. Also targeting the journalists, because I remember 2015, a few months before the elections, some lawmakers were just harassing journalists on the corridors of the parliament, saying that soon you'll be fired. Guys, remember, we'll be back, and you won't have this workplace anymore. So, well, that's it.
I was very ambitious with my questions, but we are getting close to the point when we will open up the panel for questions from the audience, and hopefully you will be like journalists at Slovak press conferences. Yes, I will give you the mic.
So my question is that, like, in the past few days, I've heard it multiple times that, like, anonymous sources are not that reliable, or we should kind of avoid that. And I'm just asking, like, why would we avoid it? Like, as like we would know who gave it to us, we can, I don't know, we would know if it's reliable or not. So, yeah, why?
Please, anyone who would like to respond to that question? Matusz?
I mean, if you don't have the face of the person who is talking to you, then you don't have the face, and that's it. I mean, that's the difference between anonymous source and real source, with his name and the expertise, because it's completely okay to use anonymous sources for stories where there is need to use them, but it has to be only exception. I mean, it has to be only in cases where there is no other chance to talk to sources with names, because yes, you said that we know who's the source, and that's enough. It's not enough for the reader. The reader doesn't know who was the source. I mean, you can build the trust between you and your reader that after years, probably the reader will trust you that, okay, so you would be not that foolish that you would be using an anonymous source who would be not real. But these cases happen in all the newspapers around the world. I mean, it happened in New York Times, where they have really hundreds of people, or they used to have hundreds of people who would like copy fact the facts and check all the information. And even though Pulitzer-winning journalists wrote stories which were completely fake, I mean, they didn't have the real source for it. They made it up. So it's completely okay to use anonymous sources if you protect your source. That's the reason why you do it. If you really know who's the source and you can check it, you can check if you have documents, if you have I don't know, pictures or videos, then it's becoming more solid. Then you can build the story on it, because you can say, okay, these sources are anonymous, but we have this kind of additional proofs or documents. But it's very tricky to start using anonymous sources as a everyday business. I mean, I wouldn't be happy to work in a newspaper where almost in every story there is an anonymous source. I mean, that has to be really exception, and you have to be really sure that what is the motivation of the anonymous source? Because if a source talk about it and with his name, everybody knows it on day after you broke the story, minute after you broke the story, and then that's the start of the check-in and asking questions, and the story like lives with his own life. But if there is an anonymous source telling something, nobody knows who was it, and I mean, you don't have those security checks how to do it. I don't know. Maybe in Hungary they have a different style.
No, I just wanted to say that I think it's very important. Verification is very important. You have to confirm what the source is saying. That there was this saying that you have to verify it from like 2 other independent sources, but it is not enough, because maybe they have heard the same rumor. So you really have to know the source, and the position is also important. So you have to just imagine what he or she can learn in that exact position. This is also important. So verifying it from other independent sources, it is not enough. So it is always a lot of work that you have to do. And sometimes when you cannot verify it well to the extent that you would like to be able to verify it, then you just have to make a painful decision on how to proceed to use that source or not to use them. It's you have, by this time, you have put a lot of work and energy into that, so this decision might be really painful.
Can I just, for the sake of our young journalist colleagues, I will just add that Of course, sometimes you anonymize sources when they are victims of violence, when you know who the person is, and you know that if you publish her or his story, that they might face really serious consequences. And those are two different things. And what also Matúš was talking about, it's a source that suddenly you get a document, you don't know who is sending it, and so there are legit cases when you just don't say the name of the source, but it's in your newsroom, you know about it, you know like who these people are, and we try to limit the cases.
Well, so the rule is the journalists don't spread the rumors and gossips. So everything must be confirmed. And it can be like that, well, allegedly, I don't know, your prime minister is, well, is something, yeah? So well, you need to prove it. You need to have many sources. Well, you don't have to put their names if you are sure that you have confirmed the story. And sometimes you get some documents and you know that if it would be, well, known that who the person was who gave it to you, she could be prosecuted criminally. If there's well, part of investigation or some, top secret documents, and well, in the sake of public good, you could publish it, but the person who gave it could be prosecuted for that, could be fired. So that's also the moment you don't say anything about the person who you have been worked with. Well, this is a plague, actually, especially in those social platforms. We don't use the word social media anymore because they ain't media. That they are spreading gossips. That, well, I have been to the parliament and I have heard that this man is about to be dismissed. Well, bullshit. This is some, vicious rumor spread by his, I don't know, enemies or just invented. Well, I know also a few persons who just got a very rich imagination and flood, their timelines with totally untrue stories. So, well, you must be respectful towards your readers, and the idea is to build a relationship, like Matúš told, that, well, they must trust you. And, well, if you lost the trust, then this is over. So well, there are stories you will never be able to or information you will never be able to confirm. You also have to live with that, hilarious things that you could grant you a Pulitzer Prize if confirmed, but unfortunately it's impossible.
Other questions?
Thank you. And thank you so much for all your responses. I just was thinking about when you were speaking about the same question. It also, during yesterday's panels, we talked a little bit about the problem of disinformation also. And this anonymization of sources, it also gives some kind of opens a door to those platforms. I like that you didn't use the media, but the platforms which are utilized by some of these governments. Like, for example, Fidesz has this megaphone and stuff, like spreading disinformation throughout all social media and stuff. And sometimes these anonymized sources, which we cannot check, can cause the problem of spreading disinformation throughout these platforms as well. Thank you.
Hi, and thank you so much. I'm Annie from Germany, so I will have a little shift in perspective. I think German media had quite a wake-up moment during the last electoral campaign. I will also extend the title to social media, and because I was recently invited to a school to speak to students aged 12 to 14 who have hours on their phone and social media from 12 to 16 hours per day. And you described the mistrust in media, which was already there, and it was teenagers, but they could not name one single media outlet other than Die Bild, which is the most problematic one in Germany. And we spend 1.5 hours discussing whether an opinion is the truth or not. And I think that's a profound shift in society that we probably cannot stop, really, but how would you deal with that? And it's something that I keep on thinking about. How can we reach younger generations as journalists as well? Because, of course, there's new formats and young formats, and everybody's on TikTok and whatnot, but I'm not sure if the algorithm doesn't want them to see that, and if the profound understanding of what a journalist is and what media do is not there, we're kind of fighting a battle that's lost.
So reaching the young generation is a question which returns to the old editorial meetings for many, many years. And well, according to data analysis, well, it's hard to reach anybody below, I don't know, 25 now. So, and of course, this is education system to blame, that the people who are in charge of education didn't recognize the necessity of some kind, civic education. Started by reading the papers, and you need some kind of habit, some kind of hygiene. You brush your teeth and you read the news in the daily or on the reliable internet portal. So that's what the Finns do, that's what the Estonians do, and we should follow the example before it's really too late. And regarding the platforms, well, we need a European response, and we can't be really taken as a hostage by Americans, by Chinese. The platforms, they earn money through spreading, controversy and hate and hatred. While when the people quarrel, when the people fight with each other, that there's an interaction, there's in clicking, there's a movement in the business, and that's the foundation of the profit. So they need to incite hate and they need this hostile stuff to be profitable. And that's why we need rather European controlled open algorithm for search engines, for social platforms, and maybe this fight with new US administration is a good opportunity to start thinking about that.
Maybe I will just add that it also takes a lot of experimenting, because I've seen some of the big US media, they created TikTok teams, and they invested a lot of thinking how to do journalism in a short format, which that's because of my age, I don't believe that's possible in 2 minutes to really do investigations. But I think it's still better than nothing, and it will take for newsrooms to really invest their energy and try out different things, because I agree with Bart, it's the same for Daily Smell. Even though we extended our production, we hired young colleagues, but we realized that the stories they are doing, they are interesting for the 40s and 50s and not the 20s. So I think that there is a way, but
I think if there would be a single easy solution for it, then we probably all of us already would have start to do it. But I know all of us, we are trying to find something. I mean, we know that we have problem with readers younger than 25. We discuss it all the time. I'm kind of I don't like those discussions already. I mean, there is a problem. I mean, Beata at SMED, they started to do, I don't know the name, but it's already their second project for young people. I mean, it's perfectly done and all the respect, everything, but it's not working. I mean, it's only people in my age are reading it, and probably telling to their children that you should read it. It's so freshly done and it's so young. Oh, come on, it's not. So I'm very happy that we are not trying to do stories like this. We are trying to be active on social media platforms, but we have to acknowledge that we are competing with completely different players than media players. I mean, those people who are really successful on those TikTok and Instagram and whatever, they don't care about journalistic ethics. They don't care about rational arguments or whatever. we hire young people, they work for us, and they're able to do reasonable stuff even for young generation. I have two sons, they're 21 and 20 years old. They kind of read what we do, I mean, they follow it on Instagram, and they know more or less what's the story behind it. They're laughing mostly because they say that we are too late and we don't know how to tell it, and all the stories we break, those platforms use and completely change in their language. And it's not only language. I mean, that's the problem. When serious media try to do something for young generation, then they believe that it's enough to change the language. Oh, come on, it's stupid. So what I believe is that we have to trust those young generation people, that one day they will be adult, and they start to be interested in stories we produce. Yes, we have to do it like fresh and innovatively and whatever. I mean, I'm not telling that we will write our stories the same way as we did it 10 years ago or today. Not at all. But probably it's like this, and we have to acknowledge that we are competing with completely different players, and there is no chance that we will be as attractive or sexy, or what is the word for it, as those people who do all the things. Yeah.
Can I add something? Yeah. Maybe I'm the youngest, but I'm still not the TikTok generation. No, not really. But so the majority of our readers are not in their teenage years as well. So, but we have a super cool Gen Z section with our editorial room. Yeah, I sometimes ask them questions as well. We try to do TikTok shorts and Instagram shorts as well, some kind of explanatory videos about, explaining some stories to our viewers and not readers. And I think we must do that in order to have a reach within the younger generation. But yeah, I think it's very important that you said that we are not competing against someone against we could win. We just have to do our part to have at least some kind of presence. But for example, in these social platforms, we are really not competing with other media, but we are competing against influencers who are not journalists. So it's like as we were to compare an apple with, I don't know, with a book or something like that.
And if I may add, I mean, we still do old-fashioned, old-style paper things for students, and that works. I mean, we produce a monthly magazine which is like one topic, and we're trying to distribute it to schools. So actually we are not talking to students, we are talking to their teachers, professors, and if they're actively using it, then we are just ready to send them those magazines, and they use it. Okay, it's probably a unique situation in Slovakia because we don't have quality materials for teachers, we don't have quality materials for schools. They have lack of materials, so then if you offer them something which is correctly written and it's updated for year 2025, then they're happy about it. And probably those students will understand, and this is not the TikTok story, this is almost a book, but they at least will be in contact with stories brought by us. And that's my, hope that one day, after 5 years or 10 years, then they will have somewhere back in the brain, okay, so we used those magazines, it was not stupid, so maybe, but nobody knows.
So maybe one more question. Yeah.
I would like to ask from Lili how would you convince young Hungarian people that it's still worth it to be a journalist? I know that convincing is not a good word because it's like a mission, something that comes from inside, but what are your thoughts about this?
Well, I'm not sure I can convince. You have to be curious of everything all the time. I have been curious all the time in my whole life. When I was a child, my parents talked with me, with my brother, about news. So I have had this background of being curious and trying to gather as many information about what is happening around us. So this, I think, curiosity is the basic. This is number one. This is like step 0. It's hard in every sense. I mean, it is tiring because it's not like a job from 8 to 5. It never ends, basically. It's really hard to turn your brain off.
It's a mission.
Yeah, it is a mission, but in the same time, I think it is really important to inform the public of what is going on, and someone has to do it, and I think it is the most important function that we have. But yeah, you will meet a lot of challenge on your way of becoming a journalist and then working a journalist as well. But yeah, I think it is something that you feel that it is worse. So I think you will have a very strong internal driver to do this and not to stop. And yeah, there are ups and downs. So I think it is important to talk about this as well, that sometimes you will feel really down. And if you get attacked by propaganda media or you are slapped, that you are not alone. Because, for example, in 444, we have a pretty good support within our editorial room. But at the end of the day, you will feel alone, and it is okay to do that. But you know, at the end of your brain, you know that there is support that you have, and I think it is very important because it's much easier to work like that. That you know that several other colleagues have had the same experience. And if I need a break, I will get a break from our editors, so it is really good. But it is also important to acknowledge that sometimes you will feel just very bad at the end of the day because you were attacked by propagandists, you were like shit posted on politicians' Facebook. Sometimes it is funny and you can laugh about that, but other times it's not that funny every day. But yeah, I think having an important and a strong internal driver is also important.
Thank you so much, Lili. I will just add that imagine the world in 5 years, or in 10 years, if those young female journalists are not staying in the job, and imagine what would be the interpretation of what does it mean to be a journalist with all the advance of the technology, AI, and pressures. So I think I will close this session with Lili's words that it's worth of it. Thank you so much for coming and for listening to us. Thank you so much, Bartosz Wielinski from Gazeta, Lili from 444, and Matúš Kostolný from Deníken. Thank you.